Welcome back to another episode of Mikey Reyes, Real Kung Fu KC. Today I'm hanging out in the beautiful Plaza, and we're about to go hang out with a guy who changes people's lives. Come on guys, let's go. Today I'm hanging out with my good friend Duke Tufty. And Duke, why don't you tell these folks what you do?
Well, for the last 35 years, I've been the senior minister and CEO of Unity Temple on the Plaza. And that is a community center, it's a cultural arts center, it is a daycare center, it is educational center, a spiritual center. It covers so many different things that help people get their life aligned with the joy and the happiness that's offered to us in this lifetime.
I've known Duke now for probably about 25 years or something through a mutual friend, but I've never heard what got him here. I'm really interested to see and hear how you went from your life at one point to now helping all these people with this beautiful organization.
Well, my father was a car dealer, and he died when I was 22, and I took over the car dealership business in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And that expanded, my brother and I, and we bought a dealership there in Kansas City, and that was very successful. And so bought another one in Kansas City, Kansas, Quality Dodge, and the other one was in Gladstone, and that was called Gladstone Dodge. So I got in the business, and everything was good in my hometown of Sioux Falls. When I got here, it was a whole different business, a whole different environment. In Sioux Falls, where I was selling cars, we were really concerned about our reputation. When I got out here, it was a little different. It was like, get them once, get all the money you can, and don't worry about ever selling another car. And that was kind of a shock to me. And another thing that took place is whether it was 9 in the morning or 8:30 at night, it didn't make any difference. If someone sold a car, a bell rang, and all the salesmen, including myself, this is when I owned the dealership in Kansas City, Kansas, went back in this room and we started cocaine.
Whoa!
It was like a celebration. Yay, we got one. And this 9 in the morning, guys get pumped up, they want another snort, so they're out there selling cars.
Okay, I guess so. That's the one way to get a rip and a roar, I guess.
It is. And most of the people were accustomed to that kind of a life, but I wasn't coming from Sioux Falls. I became an addict very quickly, and eventually I overdosed.
Oh.
And that everything's lapsed, both the dealerships, and I was pretty well lost at that point. I didn't know what I was going to do. So the cocaine habit became a death-threatening episode of my book. And I was down in Florida doing cocaine, and I overdosed. And I was on the bathroom floor. It was one of those bathroom floors that had the little white check, black and white tiles. And I knew if I closed my eyes, I was probably going to die. So I just started counting the tiles over and over. It goes off and I come back, start counting the tiles again. And I did that for 6 or 7 hours. And then finally I was able to garner the strength to get up and get to the bed. And then I just slept 24 hours till the next day and came home. But the real thing is, when I was on that floor, I wasn't a religious man. I wasn't even a believer in God. I was raised in a very tough fundamental church in South Dakota, where you were taught that you're unworthy in the eyes of God, that you're sinful by nature, and that you'll never be any good unless you suffer through this lifetime, and then get into heaven afterwards. And I was so tired of that stuff by the time I got confirmed when I was 14 that I left the church, I left God, didn't like Jesus because I had all the guilt. He died for my sins. And I just didn't like ministers. And I swore I would never spend another minute in my life in the presence of a minister. And so here I am, 35 years later. So that was a very tough time in my life, but also it's the most incremental step I took towards living a positive life that would provide for me opportunity not only to improve my own life, but to help others along the way.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's it's funny, when I started studying martial arts, it was kind of like the same for me. I moved from Jackson, Tennessee under horrible circumstances. I was fighting every single day there. It was ran by a racist church, and I'm Hispanic and I'm very pale skin looking, so I got it from all ends in this place. Nobody liked me. I fought every single day, and on Sundays I generally fought 3 or 4 times a day.
Wow.
And it was brutal. I the last fight I got into, well, the 2 last fights I got into, I hurt this one kid really bad. Um, but he threatened to he was going to hit me with a mechanical wrench, and that was going to hurt me really bad.
Oh.
So I ended up hurting him really bad. I was upset. The next day I got jumped by several kids, and they beat me up. They hit me with the toe chain in my butt, in my head, knocked me down, kicked me, punched me. I just kind of eyed the prize, saw some feet, ankles, pull kids down, crawl over them. I'm getting punched and kicked, whacked their skulls a couple times against the ground. I crawled home. None of them went home in their car that day. But my mom was a little crazy, and I knew if I told her what had happened, that she probably would have gone up and done something really bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I looked like a Ferengi. My head was super jacked up. I put a mirror in front of myself, and I told myself I felt very similar. I felt like if I went to sleep, I wasn't going to wake up. So I just kept telling myself to stay awake and stay awake until I could call my brother Rudy. As soon as I was able to get a hold of my brother Rudy, I told him what happened, and I needed to come home. And my face started looking normal. We got on a Greyhound bus. I came to Kansas City. I started training Kung Fu with my brothers, but even though I was very feisty and good at fighting, when I started training Kung Fu, which my brothers were already doing for the past like year and a half, uh, you know, it felt awkward. We did animal boxing. It's not like we fought like humans, punching, kicking, elbowing. We were trying to pretend like we were cranes, or my teacher would not say pretend. He'd say you become a crane, or become a tiger, or things like that. And it was hard for me initially to adjust, and I got beat up all the time. And I got beat up a lot by young women and moms, and it made me feel freaking horrible, destroyed my freaking ego. I felt bad about myself. And I too started dabbling in things, um, more of the hallucinogenic realm, but enough to, I mean, we trained with our teacher 5, 6 days a week, 4 to 6 hours a night. Like we trained for real. And I was trying to make as many excuses as I could to not go to class. My brother would come to the door, get ready to pick me up. Hey, come on, Mikey, let's go. But I'm sick, Rudy, I can't go. Or make up stuff, whatever, just to get out of classes. I mean, granted, I was still training 3 days a week, 5 to 6 hours. So 15 to 16 hours a week, I was still training with my brothers at this place. And they still made me train on my own, but I still tried to check out as many times as I possibly could to not train all the time. And probably a year time had passed, and I felt so withered and sunk in that I looked in the mirror and I told myself that I looked so ugly and so pathetic, and I hate Kung Fu so much that I was going to dedicate the rest of my life to it till I learned to love it.
Yeah.
And I stopped doing all that jazz. I started training Kung Fu night and day, every second that I could, trying to figure out a way to do it any moment that I was not even in class. When I was walking, I would brush up against things, try to walk around things, constantly always trying to evolve myself to be a better martial artist. And I didn't know that I directly wanted to help people initially yet. I was still just trying to find myself through this process. But the more I did it, eventually when I was young, and I was probably like literally the height of my training career where I had students, I probably had about 25 to 30 people that would come meet me on the back of the Nelson steps. It's such a beautiful parallel. I was very excited to hear your story, because I figured something had to happen in your life that normally brings you to this type of position. I got to meet Duke through a very, very good friend of mine, Bree Davis. Bree loved and believed in me so much. She just thought the things that I said and the way that I try to live should be heard by everybody. And so she tried to always get me to be around the most influential people, and that she thought would help push me out there to the world to be known. And obviously, Duke Tufty runs this beautiful, it's still a church, right?
I call it temple, but
Yeah,
same thing.
Yeah, it's still this beautiful temple, and it is amazing. And like I said, they give so much help to everybody. So my friend Bree brought me to Duke to introduce me to Duke because she thought that we would both be good for each other's lives. And I definitely believe in exactly that.
Mikey, she is somewhere right now, looking down, smiling that we're together. A October night, it is 5:30 or 6, and the phone rings. I pick it up, and she said, "I would like to talk to a minister." And I said, "Okay, I'm a minister." She says, "Well, is this a church?" And I says, "Kind of, yeah." And she said, "Well, I've been going through the phone book trying to find a church because I need one. And if you're a church, can I come down and talk to you?" I said, "Yeah, that'd be fine." She says, "Okay, I'll be there in 15 minutes." And I thought it was going to be next week or something. It was raining out.
Yeah.
She walked down here with the rain. She lived over by UMKC, I think.
Yeah.
Came in soaking wet, had bib coveralls on.
Yeah.
And
That's great.
22, 23 years old, I guess. And I thought, man, what am I going to do with this one? There's a generation gap. There's all sorts of things that might prevent me from really talking in the language he understands. But we became good friends, and that started the friendship. And we were never, well, we were apart. She'd get mad at me and she'd run off.
Yeah.
And wouldn't talk to me and wouldn't take my phone calls. And so I would just accept it until she came back.
Yeah.
And one time I was in CVS, and I was coming this way and she was coming that way. I saw her, but I didn't acknowledge her. And we just walked by each other, and I could feel her staring at me. We got about 3 feet wide. She said, "That's it?" So I stopped and turned around, and we just hugged.
I have so many fond memories when I went to school. You know, like I'm dyslexic, and I have problems with reading, writing, paperwork. And literally, when Tamar and I got together, mail that was just for me that I had to deal with was just stacking up and stacking up. And Tamar's like, "Mike, what are you doing?" She's like, "Take care of your paperwork." And again, I had to break down some walls and tell her because, I mean, it makes you, in school, I was just told I was stupid. You know, I eventually had to tell her, I'm like, I'm actually dyslexic, and it gives me fear and anxiety to fill out paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
You could put me in front of 10 men. That's okay. Filling out paperwork scared me. Like, it made me feel like I didn't understand what the questions were asking me, made me feel bad. So eventually, obviously I talked to Tamar about this, and she helped me out with it. And now I don't have problems doing, like my own paperwork and stuff like that. But it had to be something that was known. And Bree has known me for so long as well that she knew I talked to her, different friends could open up differently to different people, I liked Tamar a lot even when I was young, so I didn't let her know some of these things. But I could confide into Bree about these types of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I eventually went to college at UMKC, Bree filled out every bit of my FAFSA paperwork. She filled out all of my schooling paperwork. She went with me to every single one of my meetings with my counselors. And if she didn't like the counselor, she would tell them that Mike doesn't want you, and we are going to get you a different counselor.
Her biggest dream was to go to India.
Yes.
For some reason, that was just in her blood. So she takes off from Kansas City, and she's supposed to land in India like 26 hours later.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy at the airport, the driver, calls the friend that I had. She calls me and said, "What happened to Bree? She never showed up." I said, "What?" So he waited there, and he went to the desk, and she wasn't on the plane that came in. So Bree flew from Kansas City, New York City to Amsterdam, and went down to the pot house and lost 3 days. Lost 3 days in Amsterdam, stoned. And then came around and got on the plane and went to India. And stayed there for
Oh,
But that was like her. She's just whimsical, It's like,
oh yes.
plane can wait. I'm going to stay here for a while.
Yeah, no, that's how she was. But when she wanted her stuff done, it had to be now.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's like,
Yeah,
she was okay with being whimsical on her own time and not caring about much, but when she needed something, she was like, get this done right now.
yeah.
I'm like, okay, great. I got to be there for like every day for the last 2 weeks before she walked off this earth.
hmm
I think we were with her within like 4 to 6 hours from the time that she passed. And, man, even though she was dealing with a lot of fears, and her mom had to keep her obviously medicated so that fear did not like
Yeah,
start crippling her early. Um, we still hung out, we still laughed because you've seen people suffer. You have felt suffering, so you know what it takes to make change to then work to be a better you.
absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I know Bree loves it. I know you train many programs here, and I've had several people that come and do their meditation practices here. And that really aligns with what we do in Chinese Kung Fu. We spend a lot of time doing different forms of meditation. What types of meditation do you have at this facility for people?
Well, we have several different types, but the concept of meditation for most of the people out there is that it's either a churchy thing or it's a woo-woo thing. And some of the Christian churches even consider it to be sinful to meditate.
Okay.
And but we have found, and science has proven now, that meditation is probably one of the greatest things you can do for the stability of your body. It gives the mind a rest that it doesn't get even when you're sleeping, because your dreams disrupt it.
Yeah.
So we have regular silent meditation. We just sit in silence, and that doesn't mean that you're thoughtless. It just means you sit there, and as thought comes by, they call it mindfulness. You become mindful of it, but you don't attach to it. Just like a cloud in the sky passes by, and then you have an emptiness, and then another thought might come up. There's another one with mantra, and that is where you chant over and over a particular word or saying that has a rhythm to it. Marking meditations, and that's where you just walk around silently and become mindful of everything. And all of these have very, very healing processes, even going all the way back to childhood if there's things that are bothering people. So meditation is bigger in this particular temple than prayer,
I
actually.
want people to find happiness any way they can get it, that's for sure. And hopefully I can help people. I know you help a ton of people. So, I feel blessed that we get to do that in this world, that we both have the ability and the want in our hearts, to want to help people.
All you have to worry about is that you put more in than you take out. And you put in more love than you take out, you put in more kindness than you take out.
Yeah, it's funny, a friend literally had just said something very similar to that the other day. We were talking about it, and they were like, it's really important that you give more than you take.
Yes.
From this world.
It doesn't have to be an unpleasant thing.
Oh, I agree.
It brings me joy. I would much rather give something to somebody that needs it than have somebody give me something that I don't need, or even that I do need.
I don't keep tabs or anything. I just try to help as many of my friends as possible, but I also know that I also have to be rooted to make sure that I can give properly and not also hurt myself. But that was also a very hard lesson to learn in life, just to not give with so much impunity that I'm actually taking and hurting myself.
Right.
So I had to find those boundaries of where that was, but it makes it better because sometimes if you give to people and they don't realize it, they get angry about it. Angry that you're doing something for them and don't see that you're trying to help them. So it's a really hard balance, to figure some of these things out. But I definitely do my best. I tell my students they should try to make 100 people smile a day.
That's good.
Yeah, and just getting somebody out of their head and thinking something negative is a positive thing in our world. And I may even have already said it on this, but I don't care. I'd say some things need to be repeated 100,000 times. We need to be reminded that we have to help this world, and getting somebody out of a stuck place with even the simplest, kindest word could sometimes be the thing that changes everything.
That's right.
And I find that really, really important. That's why I want people to, to make people smile every day by everything we could possibly do. Super excited that, we've got to be together and go on this journey.
Yeah, and continuing on.
Well, I want to say thank you guys for checking in for another one of our episodes. And if you obviously live in Kansas City, or you're passing through Kansas City and there's anything that Duke and this beautiful temple can do for you,
call me.
Yeah.
Stop by.
And definitely, if there's anything that I could do to help you out, you could reach me on my Instagram, Mikey Reyes Real Kung Fu KC, my YouTube under the same name which you are watching, or you could call me at 816-337-1099. I love you all. Thank you.
Bye-bye.